Welcome to the Richmond Film Network Podcast, your all-access pass to the world of independent cinema. Each week, we go beyond the credits and sit down with the creatives who turn vision into reality. Tune in weekly to find out who's on the RFN pod.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Giles, your Richmond Film Network podcast, and here with me today is Charlie Lyons. Charlie is a writer, director, and producer who works across plays, film, and television. His play, Confidential Informant, which inspired the short proof of concept film that we're here to talk about, and which will screen at RFN Indie Fest on November 15th at the Park RVA, was produced by TC Squared Theater Company in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where it played to sold-out audiences and standing ovations. Drawing on his years of experience as a prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, his work brings authenticity and honesty to stories about the ways addiction shapes lives. Charlie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here, and thanks for the wonderful introduction.
Sure. So Confidential Informant started as a play and became a short proof of concept film. Can you talk about how the story evolved from stage to screen?
Sure. First, it evolved from TV to stage, actually, when I joined the Play Lab and I was trying to think about what to write about. I had to write a play. I looked at this pilot I'd written that had a lot of good stuff, but I hadn't figured out. And I thought, if I take these two characters, this detective and this confidential informant, and if I write a play about just them, I bet I'll figure out what the TV show's about. And that's what I did in the first session of the Play Lab in the fall of 2018. But what I found out is it didn't help me figure out what the TV pilot was, but I realized as I was writing the play that this is actually a feature film with limited locations. So that's really what started it. I was like, this is sort of an independent filmmaker's dream to fall into this, because people like the story and it's not a lot of locations. It's doable. And so I knew really at that point that sooner or later it would be a film. I'd been writing for a long time, and I'd made sort of experimental films way back in college, but I hadn't done much narrative work since then. So I shot another short film sort of as a quick school. And then I thought, if I need to shoot the proof of concept for a couple reasons, to show them what the feature is going to look like, and also to educate myself about shooting independent films. So I thought, let's take a bite out of that apple first instead of biting off more than I can chew and jumping right into the feature film. So that's where the proof of concept came.
So the title tells us a little bit what it's about, but can you expand? Can you give us a little bit more information?
Sure, of course. It's the proof of concept part's about a detective seeing a troubled woman go into a house that the detective's watching. And then when the young woman comes out, the detective arrests her and offers an alternative to being arrested and prosecuted. And as you said, the title, Confidential Informant, tells us a little bit about where that goes from there. And then the feature expands on that. Really, the proof of concept's the beginning of their journey of meeting each other and ending up in this plan that the detective has, and it goes from there.
So addiction is at the heart of this story. Can you talk a little bit about how your real world experiences influence the characters and their conflict?
Yeah, really, I've been working as a criminal defense attorney for decades, and before that as a prosecutor for a period of time. The story brings together two things that I deal with. One is clients that are confidential informants, either through the district attorney's office where there's paperwork and an agreement, or often I get my clients and they're working with a detective already, and it's kind of off the books. And based on that experience, I've seen that they're really on the hook with the detective. It's certainly not an even field of power. They're to a degree, and it varies, they can be at the mercy of the detective because they're kind of on the hook with them. And then the other aspect that is developed in the full feature film is something I've learned as a criminal defense attorney. I also handle civil commitments in Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, you can move to commit someone if they're a danger to themselves or others because of substance use. And so I often find myself representing someone who's battling addiction, and sometimes they want to go for treatment, other times they don't. And it's my job to defend them and try to keep them from going into commitment. And I've just seen over the years what that involves often is a mother or father or another loved one at a loss because of the addiction that the person they love is going through, and they don't know what else to do. And so they move to commit the person civilly. And it's heartbreaking. And that's a slight spoiler, but that's something of what The Detectives is related to.
So was this a case of you writing what you know? Is that something you can clearly talk about very much in depth? Is that what interested you? I can't talk. Is that what interested you in exploring the parallels between these two characters?
Yes, definitely. I mean, they're both, again, another bit of a spoiler, they're both mothers, and they're both going through a lot of the same things, but from a different angle. And that fascinated me. The parallels of the things they're going through, and yet they're also in direct conflict. So that really interested me. To a degree, it was, you discover things as you write. So to a degree, there were some happy accidents in the choices I made, and having the detective be a female police detective. When I made that decision, certain things fell into place and really made the story fascinating for me. And I think it's one of the big things that resonates with audience members when they see the whole story.
Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your cast and your crew. Celeste brings an incredible intensity to the detective role. First of all, tell me how.
I agree.
She's amazing. Tell me how you met Celeste and how she came to be cast in this role.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a funny thing for actors out there. You never know who's in the audience, and you never know when your performance is going to really draw somebody in. And that's what happened with Celeste for me a number of years ago, long before I wrote the play. My wife and her sister and I went to a play called Grounded, which was being produced in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And it's a one-woman show, whose lead was Celeste. And it's about a female fighter pilot who ends up getting grounded and moved from flying planes up in the air to basically a trailer in Nevada where she operates drones. And again, it's a heartbreaking story about the emotional effects this has on her. And it also plays into her being a mother, which I just thought of actually. But we came out of that performance with our mouths open. And it was one of those times when you leave the theater or the cinema and you're still in that other world that she created. So that stuck with me. And so when I wrote this play in Cambridge and I thought about what actors are in the Boston area, she immediately came to mind. And so I ended up sending her the script. We actually almost ended up working with her on another project too, but long and short, she liked the script, she liked the role, she liked the writing. And so it went from there. So originally she had done a reading on Zoom with us back in 2020. And she was wonderful in that also. And so was Courtney. So I feel really fortunate that both of them are in it.
So when did you see her on stage? What year was that?
That was 2014. Yeah.
2014. Yeah. Charlie, this has been quite a journey for you. 2014, you see her. You write the script what year?
The first draft of the play was 2018.
4 years later. Now, did you always have her in mind as you're writing? Did you have her in mind, or was it later when it came to casting? You said, "Oh, I remember her," and then you got the script to her.
It was after the fact.
Okay.
So the 2014 is that's just something that happened, and it just stays in your mind. Sure. That actor or actress was just wonderful. and you remember it because it was just an amazing performance. And so Boston has a wonderful theater scene, but she just rose to the top. And there was no doubt, once I was thinking about who to cast, there was no doubt that she was my first choice. And hopefully that choice was going to work out, because I don't know who else I would have gone to. Having said that, the play was cast with someone else that was also wonderful. But I feel really fortunate that Celeste is doing this, and the results are in the proof of concept.
Yes.
The proof is in the proof of concept.
There you go. So you were still able, after all that time, I assume she's a staple in the theater community there, and you could easily find her to get the script to her?
Yeah, I did a little hunting, but yeah, I did find her pretty quickly. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. Now, switching over to Courtney, who is the confidential informant, and she has a very different energy that she brings as the person in conflict. How did you and Courtney get connected?
That was from originally, we were going to produce the play with a wonderful director, Greg Allen, and it was going to be live on stage in Boston in 2020. And as you know, there was a pandemic. So that ended the live performance. But we, like a lot of people, we said, hey, we can do this on Zoom, present this on Zoom. And Greg did an absolutely wonderful job of setting up the backgrounds and the sound for that and directing. But in leading up to that, he did a casting call. And Courtney submitted one of the video auditions, and she did a monologue, which was a phone call with her young son. And it just stood out from all the rest. Both of us were like, yes, Courtney, she's the one for this role, because she just embodied what we were looking for. So she did the Zoom performance, and she did the play, and now she's done the proof, and knock wood, she'll be doing the feature too. So, and I didn't know how the Zoom was new to everybody, but the Zoom performance was fantastic. It was intimate, and we actually raised a lot of money for the NAACP's Legal Defense Fund. That was one of our purposes that we rolled in because of George Floyd. And so that was a wonderful thing to do too, to adapt to the pandemic and also to address some of the stuff that was going on in the world at the time. So,
wow, Charlie, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So their first time meeting was on Zoom?
Yes, exactly. Now that you mention it, I'm not sure when they met in person. Sometime after that, yeah. But from the first rehearsal through the performance, it was all in the height of the pandemic, and equipment was dropped off on porches, and everything was, we were all in lockdown, so it was all on Zoom, and they were both wonderful. They both adapted to it fabulously. Jay Connolly, who plays the son in the full feature and in the play, he adapted to it completely too. And it was a real success. We incorporated some key props that brought the story home, and I couldn't be happier. So yeah, that was a great way to begin the journey of the play, and then moving on into the feature, the proof of concept and the feature.
So the proof of concept is strikingly shot in black and white, which I think is a brilliant choice.
Thank you.
I think there is a richness that almost feels like, you think of color bringing richness and emotion, but the black and white does the same thing in a different way. So what brought you to make that choice stylistically, and how does that help you tell the story visually?
I love black and white. I've shot still photography too on the side for a long time, and I've always loved black and white. I think I always pictured this in black and white also. And while thinking about it, while getting ready to make the film, and while thinking about it, I've done a lot of reading, listened to a lot of podcasts about filmmaking. And one of the things that stuck out is someone talking about the fact that whichever way you go, it needs to be an active choice. If you go with color, you need to go with color for a reason. If you go with black and white, you need to go for a reason or for a feeling or whatever it is. It needs to be an active choice. And another thing I read was actually from, is it Marcello Mastroianni, the famous Italian actor, was talking about black and white. And he said it just gives you one remove from reality. So on top of I think visually it's just meant to be black and white. But on top of that, the story is very intense. It's just the subject matter and how it plays out is very intense. And I feel like that slight remove from reality visually, for lack of a better word, it softens the blow of the intensity of the story. So I think that's an added reason. But as you said, it's rich. James Sullivan was the cinematographer and will be for the feature. And his compositions, his lighting are wonderful. And so it just enhances the black and white. So yeah, so I agree. I love it in black and white.
I can't imagine it in color.
Right.
Now that I've seen it in black and white. Yeah. It wouldn't be the same.
And in post, I'll see clips in color because you change it afterwards. And I say, no, I never say, oh, maybe we should have done it in color. It's the right choice for this film. It just fits with the story, the setting, and the mood, I think.
Now, much of the story unfolds in one location, inside of the interior of a car, which is difficult to film practically. It's difficult to film in the interior of a car. Also, one location in any situation is a little bit difficult to film without losing tension or visual interest. But for me, that's where the script shines, is because you have this dialogue that it does not matter. It doesn't matter where they are.
That's great. Thank you.
And them being in these close quarters, it's also like, literally and figuratively, they're kind of trapped.
Yeah.
In this confined space. So I thought that was a brilliant choice. How did that scene get set in that location as a writer?
I mean, it fits with the story. It's what would happen. Detectives watch houses. They arrest people when they come out if they think they've been buying drugs in there. And they'll bring them to a location. Well, they might bring them right to the police station and arrest them. But if they're interested in them being a confidential informant, they'll bring them away from the house and bring them to a location where they can talk about the arrestee's options. She's brought to this sort of parking lot behind a brick building, and they have their conversation. So it's really what the story demands. And I agree with what else you were saying was when you're learning to write about conflict, you read a lot of books, and one of them was like, the best thing, if you can get two characters locked in a closet that are in conflict, you've got a story. And so this isn't a closet, but it's a car. They're in close quarters, and because of the agreement they make and the journey they're going on, they're kind of locked in that car. And so story-wise, it's wonderful. Actually, you do have that concern of they're sitting there, they're in a car. What are our options? And a friend of mine who directed the play, when I was talking with him about it, he was like, don't worry, they're not going to be bored. The audience isn't going to be bored. So I think the mistake would have been to try to sort of jazz it up with a lot of different camera movements and changes in visuals and everything. So we decided to keep it fairly simple and on them and let the story play out.
Well, it's 11 minutes and 38 seconds. Just went back and looked at the runtime. So it's not like, it's a short.
Yeah, exactly. And for the feature, they do get out of the car. They're definitely different locations, but they do spend a lot of time in the car too. So it's a mix. And that's also, again, going back to when I first wrote the play, that it just clicked in my head. This is doable as an independent film. And it's a blessing that they're in the car a lot. And if the story kept you interested for the short, which is really the opening sequence of the feature, the story is going to keep you interested for the feature too. So that's my prediction anyway.
You had said that your goal as a director is to tell stories about the most important moments in your characters' lives. So when you have the full feature script and you're thinking about what do I pull for the proof of concept to show what this feature is about, that certainly is an essential moment in the
Yeah.
characters' lives.
Yeah.
So wise choice again there.
Thank you.
So talk to me a little bit more about your DP. You had mentioned him before, James
Yeah.
Sullivan, which you
Yeah.
also credited for being AD on the set.
Yes. I mean, he's not credited in the credits for that because he just said, I just want to be credited as director of photography. But in his bio, in the press release and on the website, I say he wanted to be credited for director of photography, so he is. But in reality, he was also the first assistant. And I say that because he ran the set beautifully. He kept us on time. He just was organized. He brought so many things together. And as I said, I'm not a super experienced filmmaker, but my sense is this is what you want in a first assistant director, is to marshal the forces and to keep the movie shoot going and still capture what you need to capture. And he had a wonderful balance. And he and the crew were fantastic. There were problems, as I think there always are. And they just said, okay, this thing's the problem. What do we do to fix it? And they just start going around and fixing it and just moving on. They were just such a wonderful crew. You could tell they loved what they were doing and just addressed whatever problems there were and kept going. And again, the proof is in the footage that we captured. So
I always like to shout out the crew because they're the unseen heroes a lot. The actors, they get all the love. So you also had listed First AC Otter Moore, Gaffer John Valley, Key Grip Chris Brown.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about their contributions to the film?
Yeah, well, Otter Moore was the first assistant camera, and he's the focus puller. And that is a job. I think I'd want to practice that for about 5 or 10 years before I did it, because it's a real skill to be the focus puller. And the cinematographer, James, aesthetically wanted a shallow depth of field. So he put Otter Moore to the test to maintain that focus. And Otter Moore does a beautiful job of it. So again, through 2 12-hour shoots, and he was always there bringing his A game, basically. And John Valley with the lighting was wonderful. And Chris Brown also there. They just, again, there were problems with weather. It started snowing at one point, and you can't, as I've said before, you can't have snow in one shot and not in the other when the two of them are talking. And they just covered it up. And so from start to finish, they were just fantastic.
Was this actually shot at night, or does it just look like it's night?
It was shot at night. We started in the early afternoon. It was coming up on a year ago. It was in the first weekend of December. We shot when it got dark and through to 4 or 5 in the morning each night. So it was dark.
Which is especially impressive to get that look at night in black and white, and it's that beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And James thanks you too, because he did it. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
Along with the crew. Yeah. Yeah.
So on a limited budget, on a freezing night in December in Boston
2 freezing
cold,
nights.
Yeah, 2 freezing nights. And Boston cold is a different kind of cold.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Boston cold is not Virginia cold.
No.
So were there any other challenges that you faced during the production?
Nothing in particular. The locations worked out wonderfully, so that was fine. There were no, knock wood, for the next time, there were no major technical difficulties. And so overall, it was pretty smooth. If you just ignore the weather and just do your job, it was great. The battery died on the truck on the second night when they were trying to leave. And so I turned around at 5 or 5:30 in the morning and drove back to where they were and gave them a jump. But that was after the shoot, so it was done at that point.
So as a writer, director who's also been a brick mason and a truck driver and a roadie, and coming from a place where you write what you know, Are there any potential stories from those experiences coming up in Charlie Lyons films?
Nothing's formulated, but I think they're always percolating there. I mean, if I played in a band and I did work as a roadie, and so again, right, what you know. So I've played at times with the idea of doing that stuff. Just for clarity, I drove a truck very briefly. My friend and I were hitchhiking across the U.S., and in Chicago, we got picked up by a semi-truck driver. And when we got in the cab, I told the driver, I'd offer to help drive, but, it's a semi. And he said, well, actually, I was thinking about that. So when we hit Nebraska, he offered to switch with me. Given my age and my lack of judgment, I hopped in behind the wheel, and we couldn't slow down because there were about 15 or 16 gears to the truck. So I hopped in and drove the semi, and things were going well until we hit construction. And then there was a little bit of a white knuckle moment, but we got through it, and he hopped back in. That's my semi truck driving experience.
That's what I call living dangerously.
Yeah. Well, when you're that age, it seems like an adventure. I don't think I'd do it again, but
I have jumped out of an airplane, but I would not do that. I like thrills, but that's not the kind of thrills I like.
Yeah.
So let's move on to a quick lightning round.
Okay.
So quick answers, first thing that comes to your mind. First song that you'd pick for a film soundtrack for Confidential Informant.
I've been asked this before, and I should have an answer. I think the soundtrack for this film, for the feature, is going to be the sound design. I don't know if anyone listening or watching has seen the show, the limited series Ripley. The sound design is brilliant.
Yes.
It's brilliant.
Yes.
And if we could bring a taste of that to Confidential Informant, that would be wonderful. And I think the other music is probably instrumental for the most part, just because of the story. Okay. And so I'm looking for someone who might want to do a score for the feature, because I think the right score will, as it does with so many films, bring it to another level.
Guess what, Charlie?
What's it?
There's going to be a composer at Indie Fest on November 15th.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you have to meet her.
I'm making a note of that. All right.
Her name
You'll have to introduce us.
Yes, absolutely. Her name is Anastasia Listopadova. And she is coming.
That's
great. Is coming from California, so you will have to chat with her.
Wonderful. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, next one. Film you could watch over and over without getting bored.
There are a few. Michael Clayton usually rises to the top. There are a few films that you just watch from beginning to end, and they got it from start to finish. You're drawn in from beginning right to the end. It's such a wonderful film. That's one of them. Punch Drunk Love is one I saw recently that I'd always loved, and I feel like that's another one of those films.
Okay, if you had to pick one or the other for the rest of your life as a director, film or stage?
I'm not making that choice. I'm doing both. They're both so wonderful in different ways. Really, as a storyteller, having the live produced Confidential Informant on stage and being there and seeing audience members connect with the story, come up to me afterwards and letting me know it resonated with them. That's a hard one to top as a storyteller. But also the filmmaking. As I said, we shot over 2 nights from afternoon to 4 or 5 in the morning, both nights. And there's no doubt I was tired, but I was not sleepy in the least. It was such a great experience. I know some people don't love being on set. They love the product afterwards, but it was such a wonderful experience to work with the actors and that crew and produce this short film. And so if I had to choose, I won't do it. I'm sorry. I won't do it.
That's okay. I understand. Yeah. Charlie, thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
And I can't wait to see you November 15th in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's coming up.
It's coming up.
Down. I will say, I will plug this a little bit. working with Richmond Film Network has been wonderful already, and I haven't even gotten there. So if you're a filmmaker, submit. If you're a film watcher and you're anywhere near Richmond, November 15th, see my films, see the other films. Having gone to other film festivals, I can tell you there is nothing better than seeing films at a film festival with other film lovers and filmmakers and the Q&As. It's great. So come on down.
Fantastic. So
Thank
when
you.
you're not here, tell everybody how they can find you online.
Good. Confidentialinformantfilm.com. Please go there. I know everyone's sick of emails. I won't send many. But believe it or not, giving me your email supports the arts. It supports film. Just having an email list that I don't even email people at gives me power to make films. So please,
That's right.
Please give me your email. I won't harass you. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Charlie Lyons Writes, and that's Charlie with an IE. If you go to the website, you'll find that contact info too, and also the CI Film on Instagram. So please follow, give me your email. I won't ask for money or spam you or anything.
Charlie, thank you so much. I will see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Richmond Film Network Podcast. Thanks to our guest and to you, our listeners, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. Tune in next week to see who's on the RFN pod. Until then, keep the cameras rolling.